Welcome to Fortuna's Events podcast series, where we engage in dynamic conversations with the pioneers, experts, and change makers driving progress across industries. In each episode, we explore how cutting-edge innovations, strategic approaches, and emerging trends are reshaping the future of businesses. Our goal is to offer fresh insights into the evolving challenges and opportunities that professionals face today.
Thanks, Rudy. Thanks for taking the time. Welcome to our first CFO and CHRO podcast series. And of course, who better to kickstart this than Rudy Abraham? He's the managing director of SAP Philippines with over 25 years of proven track record. Rudy's definitely a driving force when it comes to helping Philippine businesses. Yes, Rudy. So before we actually get into the whole breaking silos within CFO and CHRO, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for hosting me. I think you've said most of what needs to be said about me. I'd like to believe that I'm probably one of those leaders that lead with heart. And so there's a lot of HR in that, but equally there's a lot of finance in that, right? And so I'm very excited to talk about what I would call the intersection between finance and HR and how understanding both these worlds and the collision of those worlds when they do take place, the phenomenal human ingenuity that comes out of that process, but also what that fundamentally means for business. And that kind of thing excites me. So I'm excited by people doing some pretty epic things and becoming a little more sophisticated and then pulling mankind up by its bootstraps when it comes to impact and purpose, while at the same time building resilient, sustainable organizations that thrive in the modern economy.
That's very much, it's so interesting to hear that. AI has always been on everyone's lips, and sometimes I feel like it's exhausted, but there's so much more to understanding AI. Can you share specific examples of how SAP business AI is currently being applied in your finance or HR processes, and how has that created value for those who are not familiar with these capabilities?
Got you. So before I just directly answer the question, maybe I'll just take a walk in the rest of the organization first. Yeah. I think the intersection between finance and HR is one that's becoming even more blurry than before. In the past, it was all about finance and the numbers, and HR was all soft and fluffy and people. And as we now navigate into the modern economy, I think it's very, very important for us to take stock around a couple of things in the organization, right? What is the organization's purpose that we work in and for? And where do the two departments, if you will, fit into that, into the way of working and way of being? And then does HR understand finance, and does finance understand HR? Because it's often said that finance is the business language of any organization. And then in that overlap, what does that mean? Is there overlap, and does the finance practitioners versus the HR practitioners really understand what that overlap means? And to give you an example of this overlap, let's be a little bit provocative for a moment.
Okay.
It's very often that finance will see HR as an expense, and HR will see a hire as an investment into the organization. And so between these two worlds, you're always kind of having to quantify value. And I think for us in SAP, it's about value. It's all about not technology for the sake of technology, but technology for the sake of higher purpose and higher meaning. I think we must break AI into two categories. There's consumer AI, which you have on your phone, and it does all kinds of things like make you age or make you reverse age and put a very cool graphic up. But then there's business AI, and business AI is all about predictive, leading indicators, and making those mundane processes a little more robotic, if you will. I'll give you an example within our SuccessFactors suite of software, which is our HR, human capital management software. Couple of things that we do right now, and we've been doing it for a long time before the AI advent hit us, was things like, business beyond bias hiring. When a manager puts out a job description and there are perhaps words or phrases that could be a little bit biased, and I'll give you an example. Looking for a software engineer, he needs to have more than 15 years of experience.
Right.
I think the challenge there is the word he. It assumes that we're going to be hiring a male. And so AI allows us to pick that up in the job description before we even click it and post it to the World Wide Web for application and says, hey, look at this job description. It may not necessarily be inclusive. And in the past, you would need perhaps several people to view that. That one use case just makes the organization so much more efficient, if you will. And as you begin to see things like co-pilots, Bull is our co-pilot, and it's our aspiration to make 80% of our most used transaction codes in all of our SAP systems co-pilot ready. So, for example, I could log on to our Joule co-pilot and say, hey, Joule, please apply for a half day of leave on the 3rd of January 2025. And while you're at it, please could you check what the cheapest flight would be for me during that same week? I think the beauty of in that use case is in the past you would call the travel desk. In the past you probably have to log on and apply for leave. You may even have to have filled out an HR 201 form and get it submitted. But AI has just democratized that entire business process and harmonized it into one single transaction through a natural language. And I think for us, that's exciting. And so what we end up doing now is we're spuriously investing in AI development to the point where we've recently, probably close to 2 years now, appointed a chief AI officer in our organization. And that's how seriously we are taking AI. And that's how we are making available AI agents, interfaces into not only our HR software, but all lines of business software in our portfolio.
Okay, awesome. I mean, so interesting. And I think that also like answers the question about, how CFOs often they prioritize, cost management, and then CHROs more focus on employee well-being. And you nailed it in the head, like how it creates harmonious balance between financial efficiency and workforce satisfaction. So that's great. Thanks for that. So looking at your team's journey with AI, can you share a comparison of how things operated before and after implementing AI-driven solutions? Like what has been the most significant improvement?
So look, there's a myriad of examples. Perhaps the one that's front and center because it's Q4 and I'm closing the business right now. And so the AI that I use, I don't even know that it's AI, but I'll give you an example. We're a multinational global organization, but truth be told is we all have one financial year. We all have one quarter end, and it all happens at the same time in the world or the same date, barring time differences. And so the way in which we roll up how we report on the financials, on matters people, on performance is through our digital boardroom. And in the past, like any business, you would get your budgets, you would track that budgets. Often in organizations, spreadsheets are the tool of choice. But what we've got in our organization, and as a line of business leader and as someone who's responsible for our delivery, particularly on our attainment, is that inside of our digital boardroom, as we call it DBO, a sales digital boardroom, there are a plethora of AI agents and interfaces telling my boss's boss, what the propensity is of where I'm likely to exit the year and the quarter. It will start categorizing the risk profiles on deals, on opportunities, and it will tell me with a degree of certainty that the verbal ranges, that the commitments that I'm making to the business and to the bosses upstairs is a healthy one through a green, red, and amber indicator, or is not a healthy one. Now you can say, Rudy, but that's just normal business intelligence. Well, the difference here is you're right. It probably is BI. But the thing about AI here is that it's getting into our transactional systems. It's getting into our CRM system. It's getting into our financial systems, and it's also sending additional data to our CFO. And it's beginning to say to our CFO, as an example, Rudy is forecasting this opportunity, this deal. Just be careful because the gross margin might be on the low side. It's now beginning to take data from a myriad of systems that was once hidden and brings to the fore what I would call the hygiene of the deal or the hygiene of the opportunity. And that allows us to make far more calculated decisions on the fly, whereas there's very little latency. The reporting is not retrospectively. So it empowers me as a line of business leader. It empowers the salesperson that's forecasting. It empowers my boss that takes the forecast and de-risks it. But it also brings insight into our chief financial officer's office around what was approved versus what ended up in front of the customer. And so behind that operating model and modus operandi is a lot of AI today that was not necessarily there 2 or 3 years ago. And I think quarter on quarter, year on year, we are beginning to see the extreme business value that AI is bringing. It just makes the entire organization far more intelligent enterprise. And fundamentally, when we are more efficient and when we are more hygienic in our operations and opportunities, our customers win. Our customers gain the biggest value because there's very little to and fro, and there's not much human error. And I think that's a really, really good use case to bring not only efficiency, but also impact, both to the organization and to our customers.
For sure. I mean, it definitely makes life much easier. So there's a lot of success stories when coming to implementing AI within an organization, right? But have there been any challenges that you've encountered when integrating AI into your finance or HR operations?
That's a fantastic question. And the short answer is absolutely, right? And there are some very complex business processes. There's lots of third-party systems. And sometimes AI doesn't span that far and probably doesn't need to span that far. So it really is about what do you automate and what do you make AI ready. I shared with you earlier that it is our aspiration to make sure that 80% of transactions can be delivered via Copilot, right? Which is no different to Siri, what's the weather in Honolulu today?
Yeah.
And you could do that. So I think for us, people by default, we don't like change. Change. We may say we like change, but when you do things repetitively, you almost become a master at your craft. And so I think a couple of challenges that come to mind is how do you deliver the message that those that partner with AI are developing skills for the 21st century? I think immediately, depending on certain functions and certain roles, I won't call them the back office, but I will say the administrative office that help us do all kinds of contracting on documentation, approvals, and so on and so forth. We would need to make sure that we absolutely sell the value of why we're making AI agents available to eradicate and to simplify some business processes, which allows those teams then to perhaps move up the value chain and start doing different kinds of functions as opposed to just approving transactions. And I'll give you an example. Very real example. The old adage of the three-way match between purchase order, good receipts, and invoice used to take 3 people, right? And each of them would click a button, and then you would finish that process. That would be 3 agents. But now that is table stakes inside of most financial systems where a procure-to-pay transaction can be done via AI. But what does the planet and the world do with those teams of people that used to perform that function? Well, guess what? They're not obsolete. There's so much goodness that they can still bring. And I think it's about moving them up the value chain. They could become practitioners or even data scientists.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I can actually see that happening. Talking about the 21st century, how do you envision, reshaping the roles of CFOs and CHROs, let's say the next 5 years? Like, how would the responsibility and opportunities change for these leadership positions?
I don't know. 3 years and 5 years in IT with AI is a very long time. When I look at the exponential unleashing of AI and various AI technologies, especially on technologies like ChatGPT, I'll park that aside. Perhaps I can talk a little bit more about what my speculation is on business AI. I think more and more enterprise mega vendors, software companies, just like ourselves, will spend a lot of time automating AI to the point where we can start reporting on items that was very hard to report on in the past, sustainability. One of the things that we're looking at and currently putting into production is our green ledger that is only available in cloud computing. And that allows organizations to report on carbon emissions across scope 1, 2, and 3 for customers. And that becomes very, very important as the world is now becoming a lot more environmentally conscious. And that's important because I think what we're now beginning to do with AI and realize with AI and business AI particularly is providing insights, real actionable insights for CFOs to start looking at not only the top line and not only the bottom line, but also the green line, either at a financial level or at a manufacturing level or at a logistics level. And there's something very powerful about that because once you crack those use cases, that will become the new norm in the industry. And so as SAP, we are trailblazers in this space. We are really, really, breaking new ground. And I think the rest will follow. I think to conclude, and the second point is it's an AI race right now. So no one can claim that they've nailed it. No one can claim that it's theirs. I think with open standards, we have converged and blurred industries. And I think everyone is on a very, very fast-paced race to get to the future. And so this is the time for early adoption. This is the time for agile sprints. This is the time for sampling, taking a business credits, if you will, in our portfolio and start co-innovating with our customers and build out those use cases across different industries, across different geographies for different business reasons, and then start, productizing that and shrink wrapping it, for lack of a better term. So simply put, I'm totally excited about what the future holds for AI. This augmentation between man or woman and machine and algorithms is finally coming to a point which is strongly underpinned by cloud computing, quantum computing, and it's an exciting time. There probably is no better time to be in tech than now.
Right. Okay. Definitely. I think AI is definitely, something that businesses need to invest in, if you want to get ahead, especially. I really thank you, Rudy, for such amazing sharing. Definitely something that we want to look forward to as well. And if today's discussion resonated with you, don't forget to share this episode and join us for more conversations on shaping the future of businesses. Also, don't miss SAP at the upcoming CFO and CHRO Philippines series, where you can actually see these innovations in action and learn more as well. Thank you so much, Rudy.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me and have a good day and God bless. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for more exciting episodes featuring industry leaders from around the globe. Until next time, stay curious and keep innovating.